From Cleveland.com, he is Jimmy Watkins, and of course, he is on the Fan Hotline. Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, guys, it must have been caller number 8.
You were.
Congrats on those tickets.
Oh, caller 7. Sorry, dude.
Now
caller
your punishment
7.
is you got to talk with us for the next 20 minutes.
Oh, so close. Wasn't he close? Isn't that the worst feeling? You try to win tickets, and they're taking caller number 8. I'm caller number 7.
I never won any of them.
I was caller number whatever it wasn't. I was great at that. Jimmy, how are you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing great, guys. I'm actually coming to you live from Toronto. I'm going to Game 6 of the World Series tonight, so
that's
feeling great.
Back to back.
My bye week.
Well, that's the way to do your bye. So what's the focus? Are you front office or all the former Guardians? What's your game plan while you're there?
My focus is I was born in Santa Monica, California, and I want to see the home team get a W.
Fair enough.
That's as good of a reason as any. Enjoy Toronto. That's outstanding.
I think Santa Monica is a suburb of Toronto. It's right next to Mississauga. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm crazy.
My Canadian geography, as my host will tell you, not up to par.
Oh, you'll be okay. Go to St. Catharines. You'll be fine.
All right, so let's start with the Brown side of things. You put a piece out on Cleveland.com basically saying how, and I'm summarizing, that it's not ideal that Andrew Berry is not speaking to the media this week. We feel somewhat the same way, but the only pushback that I would have is, okay, so if he did speak, what good would come of it, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and I want to frame these discussions as Andrew Berry doesn't know the media anything, right? This is not me pounding the table for I need to get my reporter in your face. That's not what it's about. These press conferences are reporters' opportunities to serve as conduits to the fan base, right? This is Andrew Berry's opportunity to face some music for the roster management, the roster mismanagement that we've seen in the last 2 years. Basically, you help make this mess. Why not help explain it a little bit, right? And you're right to say, what will come of it? Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski have for 5+ years now been putting on a masterclass into how to not answer a question, but at least they get heard. At least the concerns get heard. At least fans get to see their weekly Sunday frustrations addressed in a public forum. And there's an air of accountability to that is missing when you don't have that.
What would you ask him right now? I mean, for me, I want to go back to the Flacco trade. We have no answers on that other than, we got a draft pick for it. If he came out and said, you know what, we knew Joe wasn't going to start I don't know, this would be complete honesty. But if we knew Joe wasn't going to start for the rest of the year, we know where he is in his career, and we wanted to give him the opportunity to start, even if it was for limited games, I'd be like, at least that's an answer. And maybe they did him right. What else would you ask him?
It's the quarterback management in totality, right? It's the Flacco trade. It's bringing in Flacco and Kenny Pickett, having the 4-way quarterback competition. Now I know Kenny Pickett wasn't taking up a ton of reps in camp because he hurt his hamstring. But you had a plan for 4 quarterbacks. 2 of them are gone, presumably because, mostly because you got draft picks for guys that you weren't going to use in the near or long-term future. That's great. But mostly because if you're trading those guys, that signals to me some level of confidence that Dillon Gabriel and or Shedeur Sanders are ready to do more than hold a clipboard, right? And we've seen with Dillon Gabriel so far, obviously there are other questions to ask Andrew Berry about the construction of the wide receiver room, which is the worst in the NFL by my estimation. And why didn't you spend at least 1 draft pick on the offensive line room when most of it is over 30 and most of it doesn't have guaranteed money or a contract on the books past this season? Those are separate questions. But Dillon Gabriel, you're by trading Kenny Pickett in the first place, you're signaling confidence that Dillon Gabriel, if need be, can start football games for you in the event that Joe Flacco gets hurt or plays poorly enough of the first 4 weeks, which is what happened, where you feel like you need to make a change. We haven't seen that bear up. And then Shedeur Sanders, when you trade Joe Flacco, you're signaling sort of the same thing. Okay, we think Dillon's ready to maybe put a spark in the offense. And if something happens to Dillon, the backup's only 1 step away. We think Shedeur can, be our break glass in case of emergency guy. For 4 weeks now, the offense has been listless. I don't know, maybe the minister, that's a little harsh criticism of the Minnesota game, 3 weeks at least. The offense has been listless. The pass game has been below pro level. And they're not even really thinking about it. Kevin Stefanski says before the bye, yeah, Dillon will be the starter after the bye. I just don't see how you can say that with such confidence. And I don't know how you can trade these 2 veteran starting quarterbacks with such confidence when clearly the rookies don't seem to be ready. Like, doesn't it feel like now would be the time to insert a Kenny Pickett or a Joe Flacco type presence into the offense? Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I've screamed since March that the goal of this season is to figure out if the quarterback of the future is either on this roster or in the draft, and it was to coincide with the second plan, or the second motto, which was have a plan and follow the plan. And you're 100% right, because it felt like they had a plan, and then the plan got flushed. And I don't know at what point the plan got flushed.
Sorry, that's the other thing, though. Like, that's the other purpose of addressing of the media, right? Outline the plan for us. Maybe there's something we're missing here. You know, he's the guy that holds all the cards. This is like, we asked Kevin Stefanski about something that's a little bit too big picture. He'll say, well, yeah, I'll let Andrew Berry speak on that. He's not speaking. So they've done this for years. Kevin and Andrew have both done this for years, where they've played coy with the microphone. They've kept every injury report close to the chest like a trade secret. And when you're winning, fine. Maybe, you know, whatever minuscule advantage you derive from keeping injuries secret and trying to keep your game plan, answers about your game plan as vanilla as possible. Maybe, I doubt it, but maybe there's some small advantage in there that you can exploit. And if you're winning, fine. When you're losing and you don't answer the questions, it looks like you don't have the answers.
Do you think Berry and Stefanski are around for the draft at the end of the season? Do you think they're safe?
They're certainly operating like a pair of leaders who are, right? That's the. Here's what I think about that. I think their actions are telling us they feel like they have a gap year here, but the Haslams are going to tell us over the next 2 months who is at fault for the Deshaun Watson trade. And by that I mean, if this season continues as ugly as it looks like it's going to be, and I have no reason to believe that it's going to change meaningfully anytime soon, and the coach and the GM stay, that to me is an admission from ownership that they meddled a little bit, at least a little bit, in the Watson trade. Now they took accountability for it a little bit. Jimmy said it at the owners' meetings, but actions speak louder than words, right? If you keep the coach and the GM around, you're admitting, which by the way, you're admitting to the fact that the Deshaun Watson trade is the cause of most of your problems. I think that's true, and that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were not the main causes of the Deshaun Watson trade. Anything other than that, I think you're seeing something where Andrew had some say in it, Kevin had some say in it. This wasn't just ownership forcing a quarterback onto them, because if that was a group decision and it failed, then you can't just put it on the owner. Everyone has to wear that in conjunction with what we're seeing this year and last year. It's just not good enough.
Jimmy Watkins, Cleveland.com. You can also hear him on the Wine and Gold Talk podcast as well through Cleveland.com, joining us on the hotline. I'll throw you the hypothetical that Charles Robinson tossed out. Myles Garrett to Philadelphia for 3 first-round picks. Would you do it?
No, I don't think. I think Phillies, you have to weigh what Phillies first-round picks look like, right? I wrote about this when the Packers came to town. Look at like the Micah Parsons deal. The Cowboys' offense is much, much, much better than the Browns. But are the Cowboys going to get their money's worth for Micah Parsons? Obviously, they only got 2 firsts for him. But the Packers look like they're going to be really good for a long time. So those first-round picks are going to be later first-round picks, and they don't count the same. 3 firsts sounds tasty in a vacuum, but it's a little bit different when you know Philly is going to be picking 25th or later every season. And the other thing about the Myles deal is just that the dead cap hit that would come with it it cripples your roster building even further, even though we know the Browns are going to be a very young team for the next couple of years and likely won't be a free agent destination, frankly, for a little bit here. I just don't think you can hamstring your roster flexibility like that. And but there's still the value of guys. Fans want to watch their favorite player play every week. That to be, particularly if we're talking about this trade deadline. I know we've been saying this since the offseason. It's a tired talking point, but I really think it's true. To be the organization that traded for Deshaun Watson and traded away Myles Garrett, I just don't know that you survive
that. All right. What are we looking for then for the rest of the season? Because I'm like trying to figure out everything we're doing here, and you get towards the trade deadline on Tuesday. Are you expecting them to make moves on Tuesday? And like you said, you will find out some of the faults of the Deshaun Watson trade, but it's like, are you making moves on Tuesday outside even Myles?
The in your voice,
yes,
is so perfect. I think that encapsulates the way a lot of people feel. I think anything that isn't tied down, like at this point, we know where the season is going. I think anything that isn't tied down can go for the right price. That's how I would be looking at it. I think that's when you're looking at the Browns trade deadline menu. I think you're looking at guys who don't have contracts beyond this year that could be of use to other teams. Those are guys like, just pick an offensive lineman like Wyatt Teller and Jack Conklin and Joel Bitonio, and trading Joel Bitonio seems unlikely, but those kinds of players, David Njoku, Jerome Ford, if anyone else can find use for Jerome Ford, Alex Wright, those kinds of players on the last year of their contracts who are playing well, in Njoku's case, have young players playing behind them, same with Ford, that you want to get longer looks at. I think that's anything that you can, any piece that you can get for the future for guys that are not going to be around for the future, that just makes logical sense to me.
Jimmy Watkins joining us. Cleveland.com is where you can read him. You can also hear him on the Wine and Gold Talk podcast, and we're going to head to the Cavs for a little bit here, Jimmy, as well. Are you worried about the rebounding woes of the Cavaliers to this point in the young season?
As worried as I've ever been. They've never been that good of a rebounding team. I know last year I think by total rebounds, they were a top 10 rebounding team. Defensive rebounding, they were bottom half of the league again. They don't like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and DeAndre Hunter as a front line. Well, DeAndre Hunter, we need more time. He's actually having a career rebounding year to start the season. But Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, we've got a pretty large sample size at this point that says that is not an elite rebounding tandem. Now, there's some noise in those numbers because they both guard on the perimeter and they both contest a lot of the shots at the rim, which when you're, bodied up against a guy who's throwing their shoulder into you, makes it a little harder to get the rebound. But in theory, that's why there's two of them, right? So I don't know if it's as much of it's not my biggest concern, but I know that's a huge talking point after a Celtics game where, guys that like Josh Minott and Kata are out rebounding Allen and Mobley, guys who are trying to make a name for themselves against a couple of all-stars. That has people scratching their heads. I will say this, just I think the main thing that people take away from Jared Allen's inconsistent motor is that you get paid $30 million a year and you should just find the energy when it's your job to have energy. But like we all know, I think we all understand, you play basketball, like big men are, as much as people want to say that Jared Allen is like a barometer, the Cavs go as he goes, I think he goes as the Cavs go, right? And I think big men need the ball to get energy. Like the Detroit Pistons back in the day, always the early 2000s Pistons would give Ben Wallace touches early in the game, knowing those possessions were likely doomed, but also knowing that their four-time Defensive Player of the Year needs a carrot to chase, needs something to incentivize him to play like a maniac. And I think there's some of that with Jared Allen sometimes too.
I don't want to run out of time here, too, because I love the fact that you, when you hop in on the Ohio State stuff, and one of your stories out there right now is why did Penn State fire James Franklin? He couldn't walk in Ryan Day's shoes. And so, it's interesting to start to hear some of the things that are unraveling from last year, especially about Ryan Day and right after the Michigan game where he and his wife seriously contemplated saying, is this worth it, what we're doing? What kind of pressure do you think Day has now down the stretch this year as they head towards the Michigan game, and then thinking about what happened to James Franklin in the middle of the year? Like we were talking about, we were talking about this yesterday. As a matter of fact, we're like, man, where does Ryan Day stand if they can't beat Michigan this year?
It's a fascinating question. I'm a proponent of the Brian Windhorst philosophy that winning a championship means you never have to say you're sorry, and it should earn you a little grace, even from your biggest flaws, right? Again, Ohio State will be a multi-touchdown favorite against Michigan this year. If they lose, it will be very disappointing, and there will be a ton of fair questions. Like, frankly, I think the way, on one hand, I think the way they're managing Julian Sayin by not putting too much on his plate is smart development, freshman quarterback. On the other hand, I think conservative play calling has been one of the fatal flaws of this 4-game Michigan losing streak, and I think like to reach whatever gear, or reach whatever fifth gear you're going to need to win a national championship, I think you need to show us fifth gear before you get there, right? So those are two conflicting ideas, I think. But I think Ryan's earned some leeway here. I think they're going to win. And that'll help. The next big frontier of that rivalry is what Michigan's got going on with this freshman quarterback, Bryce Underwood. I mean, the Michigan has just, for the first time since like Donovan Peoples-Jones, landed top 100 receiver recruits in back-to-back seasons. They have something brewing there on the recruiting trail. I don't know if it's this year, but I think in the years to come, there will come a point where the Michigan problem and the national championship picture collide, and that's where I think Ryan Day can be in trouble. But for now, the guy just won a national championship, and his team this year looks better than last year. So
yeah, they do.
I'm not turning up the heat on that.
We'll wait till Michigan week. We'll wait till Thanksgiving before that heat starts getting stirred up again. Hey, Jimmy, have a great trip to Toronto. Have some poutine while you're there. Not exactly a California delicacy, but they love it in Toronto. So.
Enjoy the game up there. Have a blast.
Yeah, have fun, man.
That environment's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I'm a bag of nerds, boys, but I appreciate you.
Goodbye, Jimmy. We'll talk to you later.
See you, dude.
Thanks, Jimmy Watkins, Cleveland.com.